ZOM 100 is a wholesome, heartwarming, slice-of-life story. No, it really is. Based on the manga by Asuharo, who also wrote Alice in Borderland, the story follows Tendo Akira, who starts off as a wage slave for an exploitative corporation until one day the world turns into zombies and he no longer has to go to work. This sets off a spark in his mind that he's free and can finally do what he wants to do. So he starts a list. 100 things I want to do before becoming a zombie. The movie already has an uphill battle ahead of itself, competing with an anime adaptation of the same story at the same time. And I know a lot of people are going to review this and compare it to the anime adaptation, but we don't do things like that around here. While there will be changes from the original manga in this movie that we'll highlight, those changes do not inherently take away from the movie's own merits, which should stand on its own.
From the get-go, the movie has the monumental task of condensing several arcs into a 2-hour runtime. And what's the verdict? It largely succeeds. Let's get the first thing out of the way. A lot of what happens in ZOM 100 the movie is very different from what happens in the manga and anime chronologically simply because of that time constraint. Many of the things Tendo experiences in the manga during the outbreak are experienced alone, and his meeting with Shizuka and Kencho is sprinkled into his journey along the way. Whereas in the anime, he meets up with Shizuka and Kencho before a lot of things go down, which is where the movie loses a lot of its charm. We don't get to live with the social dynamics and personal growth that Tendo, Shizuka, and Kencho experience over a long period of time. But that's not to say the movie doesn't do a damn good job of conveying all of that in the time it has to do so.
The performance by Akaso Eiji, Shirai Shimai, and Yanagi Shuntaro is fantastic, and the chemistry between them is palpable. But the best thing the movie succeeds in, having lost most of the story's charm just solely based on lack of time to simmer, is the crux of the entire story: optimism. Tendo is bogged down by an abusive workplace, and you would think that a zombie outbreak would just compound the situation and make things even worse. But Tendo's sheer positivity of turning the pandemic into his own personal playground is the entire point of ZOM 100. In a media landscape filled with zombie thrillers about the dark, dour, and visceral reality of society at its worst, ZOM 100 seeks to tell a slice of life and fun-filled story. Are there zombies? Yes. Is there danger around every corner? Yes. Are there shitty people that will do shitty things? Absolutely. But it's a tired theme of the zombie genre. We know that society crumbles and civility largely gets thrown out the window, but that's what makes ZOM 100 such an interesting narrative. For all the darkness that we expect in a zombie apocalypse story, ZOM 100 fills it with vibrant brightness and humor in a story centered around someone's fulfillment of life. It's in this that the story succeeds in being about Tendo, Shizuka, and Kencho, about their friendship and personal growth, and not about the zombies or the cruel nature of uncivilized society. Even the zombie chases and the dangers that come with this typical story are fun, and that's a relatively hard sentence to say when in stories like this, people are dying.
Remember 28 Days Later? Probably one of the best zombie movies to ever come out. One of the best parts of that movie amidst all of the chaos was when they enjoyed themselves with a shopping spree and a joyride in the countryside. And that's what ZOM 100 aces in spades. It focuses on a unique perspective, one of optimism and fun. And if you've seen Alice in Borderland, Asuharo tends to write stories with very unique worlds and worldly circumstances, something that forces us to deviate from typical real-world comparisons. In this case, the zombie outbreak isn't really atypical, but the world he creates within the outbreak is so unique, charming, and a huge change of pace. What you get very much is. You thought this was going to be a tale filled with betrayal and a stark commentary on the human condition? Nope. In the end, ZOM 100 succeeds in portraying a zombie outbreak where the crux of it all is Tendo's fulfillment of life despite the environment and situation he finds himself in. And that too changes Shizuka and Kencho for the better. I think we could all use a break and could stand to benefit from perhaps finding a balance between work and doing the things you want to do. Because we all have things we want to do, especially before we become zombies.
ZOM 100 Bucket List of the Dead. It is a very, very fun movie.
I thought so too.
And I came off of this having started watching the anime and starting to read the manga, but a lot of people are going to come at this being like, oh, why did it change so much? Why is it happening so fast? It's because it has to do it in 2 hours, and it's an adaptation. So as much as I would prefer it to have been like a series like Alice in Borderland,
sure,
I have to give it credit where credit is due. It did a lot of things correct and portrayed largely the crux of the story, which was Tendo trying to do what he wanted to do before becoming a zombie.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the zombies at all.
Yeah, and I think the very beginning right off the bat, like the way Tendo's optimism and the way he views life really kind of permeated through the screen as the story unfolded, right? Because that was a theme that was just throughout the entire movie. His positive attitude, his optimism towards life, even though the world is absolutely dead now. As he meets Shizuka and as he rescues Kensho, those people transform themselves because of his positive attitude. And that's also something that's really cool about his character, where you see little bits and pieces of that from like The Walking Dead. There's always like the moral center of a group or whatnot. Someone that's always like the comical relief of any kind of situation. That kind of shines through the way Tendo has been consistent throughout the whole movie. And I don't know anything about the manga or the anime, but it does a really good job of getting these people together and getting the central message forward.
It's all about the message, and it's all about the theme of what ZOM 100 is. But the anime adaptation is full of bright colors, vibrant scenes, and frames of like extreme animation and like accentuated expressions. And so you can't really go from one to this and being like, well, it just doesn't do the same things. Like, well, of course not, because it's a live action.
You know,
right?
what's so awesome about this movie too is that it's very Japanese. It's very Japanese, the way they do the music, the way they do the action sequences, the acting, like the cuts and the scenes. It brought me back in the days when I watched a lot of Japanese movies. It just felt Japanese, and that was really cool. What I loved about it the most was that it reminded me of Shaun of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. 28 Days Later was like with those moments of slices of life where the whole world might be dying and filled with zombies, but you still have a life to live and you can enjoy it. And those were so awesome. And this movie really just focused on that throughout the whole 2 hour and whatever minutes it was.
And you know how diametrically opposed slice of life and zombie apocalypse is, right?
Right.
There is no life in these zombies, but you're trying to get a slice of life. And that's what also the thing I loved about the soundtrack of this movie is that you almost think you're watching a slice of life, coming of age J-drama or like a Japanese movie with the music playing as it is. But it's just situations in between zombie scares and horrors that signify those slices of life and coming of age.
I think the highest moment of this movie was definitely the zombie shark.
Yes.
The zombie shark. And then when Shizuka comes in with those blowhorns or whatever what are they called? The megaphones, blowhorns. The megaphones. And that was just like pure cut anime fun and enjoyment for me at that point.
Yeah, but like when she spins around and there's like a brief like stylization of visual effect on the spin, it's just so fun. It's just fun. It's pure unadulterated laughter and thrills.
It's definitely been a good break from all of our K-dramas and all of our K-pop reaction videos.
Especially from Alice in Borderland, which is dark as hell.
Very dark. Well, that was awesome. I hope it was fun for you as well. What did you think about ZOM 100? That is it for us, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Leave us a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap that bell so you know when we post new videos. And once again, this is what we're watching this Sunday. We'll see you next time.